Hello. We are Dave and Vicky's children. I'm Jacob, the oldest son and child of Dave and Vicky. I'm the musician / entertainer of the family, and even though Dad didn't play any instruments, I definitely have taken some influence from him in my musical style over the years. First of all, we would love to thank everyone for coming to celebrate the life of our beloved Dad. The outpouring of prayers, love, and support our families received these last few weeks has been overwhelming, to say the least. It just goes to show you how amazing our dad is and how many lives he touched. How do you begin to sum up a man that has always been larger than life? Seems appropriate to give it a sports spin. We hear the term best dad in the world thrown around a lot. Of course, we're not so naive as to think that our dad was the best dad in the world, because there are countless fathers, many here today, who are also wonderful human beings. What we are confident about, though, is that if there was a Hall of Fame of fatherhood, then Dave Pederuto would have been a first ballot entrant without a doubt. When John Madden was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he pointed out that he would have amounted to nothing had it not been for the players and coaches' legacies that came before him. They led the way and built the foundation for himself and the generations that followed. And we think that sums up how we feel regarding our dad. The foundation he built for us is stout and immaculate. When he decided to do something, he was 100% all in, especially when it came to sports and rooting for his teams. You could always find him in his recliner, watching, supporting, and very often yelling at his LA Dodgers and LA Rams, but mainly his USC Trojans and LA Kings. During the early days of Kings hockey, when very few games were televised, Dad would sit by the radio late at night and listen to the games. In 2012, after decades of heartbreak, Kings finally won their first Stanley Cup. We don't know if it was more exciting for us to watch them win it or to watch Dad watch them win it. It was definitely a long time coming. We can remember Dad bringing along a small black and white TV if we ever had to attend an event, like a family reunion during football season. There was no way he was going to miss a USC game if he didn't have to. He was rarely serious. The one thing Dad took very seriously was not being serious. As my mom says, he turned 16 and managed to stay 16 for the rest of his life. If you knew Dad in any capacity, you know how he loved to have fun, joke around, and enjoy himself, sometimes a little too much. If you know our family, you know that movies and movie quotes make up the language our family speaks. One quote certainly fits our dad, and it's from his favorite movie of all time, Armageddon. As Dan Truman, played by Billy Bob Thornton, talks about Lev Andropov, a Russian cosmonaut, and of course Dad's favorite character in the film, he says that he's been up on the Russian space station for 11 years alone, and then says, and I quote, "So don't be surprised if he's a little off." If that isn't Dad, we don't know what is. Dad would constantly remind us that Armageddon was the movie that has everything: romance, action, comedy, drama, and of course, a killer soundtrack. Dad loved his music. He was particularly fond of rock and country music and loved when the two would blend together. He loved what he referred to as loud and raucous music. Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Boston, Hardy, the Cadillac Three were just a few of his favorites. He certainly passed his love of music on, and we will all have our certain songs that will always remind us of him.
Hello, I'm Jennifer, and I've had the privilege of being Dave and Vicky's only daughter until about 4 years ago when I got my first sister-in-law, and we've since added one more earlier this year. I had a great run as the only girl. I'm also married to Brandon, and we're the parents to Claire and Lily, who gave Dad the title of Pop Pop. Dad had the definition of a servant heart. He loved to serve and found joy in serving those around him. He was a fixture here at St. Dorothy's, where he participated in the homeless shelter, Curcio, and Life Teen for many years, where he touched many lives in the process. He was there with a positive attitude, ready to serve and work hard. Dad was an amazing cook. His love language was food, and he found a calling to cook early on in life. He cooked for the 6 of us every night, as our mom's lack of cooking skills remained legendary. But he was also able to cook for literally hundreds during the homeless shelter here through the years. He even taught a for men's-only cooking class geared for senior citizens at the local rec center for years, and I was lucky enough to be his sidekick through it all. We can't remember a family function where Dad wasn't cooking, from the annual college football kickoff breakfast every Saturday of Labor Day weekend to smoked meats, Pop Pop's Tutti Frutti pancakes, Thanksgiving mashed potatoes, Christmas time tamales, clam dip, Italian spaghetti sauce, and the list goes on. His heart was always poured into his food. Because he loved his teams and he loved to cook, we felt it only necessary to bury him in his personalized chef's coat with his USC jersey over it. Dad was a hard worker. He worked for the same printing company for over 30 years. He worked challenging shifts to commuting to Glendale and LA for years, but we never heard him complain about it once. Even in his later years, when he rode the Metro, he started blogging about how insane some of the people were on the train and made the best of it. Growing up, it was always a treat to visit him at work. We can remember telling people, our dad's a stripper, not knowing that we should have specified a stripper in the printing industry. Dad was gentle. He might have been a big man, but he gave the most gentle hugs. They were absolutely the best, and always with a kiss on the head or the cheek. Dad was wacky. We knew this, and it's become more and more evident based on some of the stories that have come out and having access to his phone. He was wacky. He was known to have a wacky social media presence that was always entertaining, or he could be found wearing a wacky costume at the most random of times. Like at my wedding when him and his pal Mark went full mushman at the reception. That's a whole separate conversation, but I have no doubt that many people that night thought we had the most bizarre wedding crashers. But no, that was just my wacky dad. Dad loved to laugh. Whether it be some silly YouTube video or his full belly laughs from watching Impractical Jokers in his recliner alone, to remembering high school memories or a funny story from 20 years ago. He was always laughing and spreading joy. When we play with the many fart machines that he's gifted to us over the years, yes, there are many, we will think of him and laugh.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm Dave's second son and probably the true middle child, which I realized later in life. In 2020, I married the love of my life, Jade, and we are expecting our first child to be born in the next few weeks. That will be Dave's third grandchild. We don't know the gender, but we're just calling baby Petty. One thing that I think about, and it's the quality that I've thought about my dad the most since he's passed away, is just remarkable consistency. He was rarely sick and showed up to just about every single sports game or event we ever had. He was the ultimate older brother figure. He took care of his parents as they've aged. He was flying up to Idaho in recent years to take care of them on a quarterly basis. He took care of his own siblings, and he even took care of my mom's siblings. As an adult, I look back now and I kind of marvel at just like how present my dad was for not only us, but so many different people and circles in life, and he made it effortless the whole time. Dad was fair. You hear about parents that have favorites. That concept does not compute here. Dad loved each of us differently and bonded with us in his own unique way. But he was always fair in the way that he talked to us, treated us, and even disciplined us. Even when our youngest brother enlisted in the Air Force and we dubbed him the Golden Child, it was really Vicky who leaned into the Golden Child. Dad was fair the whole time. My dad was also an innovator. In the 90s, we used to play hockey growing up. He built us a plywood goalie cutout so that we could practice our shooting by ourselves. In the 2000s, he installed a second shelf, a second TV above his main television so he could watch 2 football games at the same time. There was picture-in-picture, and he needed a bigger screen. And I remember thinking, Dad, do we really need to watch Colorado State versus Bowling Green? And he was like, of course we do. In the 2010s, Dad was also an early adopter of AI. I was fully exposed to this when I moved home for a few months before my wedding. During this time, he began using Amazon's Alexa system to announce dinner to me from the other side of the house each night. If you know me, I'm a big soccer fan, and Dad got to be a little bit more warmer on soccer towards the later years. So he then announced one night, dinner will be served in 5 minutes. I repeat, there will be 5 minutes of added time to the 90 minutes of this soccer game. Dad was a great role model. Why do we behave the way that we do? This is what we really keep thinking about since he passed away. Well, he didn't really tell us what to do. He was not a big vocalizer. We just did stuff because whether we knew it or not, he was showing us what to do. So things that just immediately come to mind. Take care of your family first and foremost. Be kind and helpful to everybody, but also don't be a pushover. Stay positive. We had a sign in our kitchen that said, "Thou shalt not whine," and I think we're pretty good about that as kids. Don't beat your chest. Let your performance do the talking. May the work I have done speak for me is etched on his casket, and we think that's so, Dave. Sharing success with others is always better than individual glories. Be a person of integrity and just do the right thing. At the end of Madden's Hall of Fame speech, he talked about how he liked to believe that the statues of the old players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame would come alive and talk to each other at night. And it was kind of like the movie Night at the Museum. And I think about how this must be going for my dad and the other Hall of Famers right now in heaven. I can imagine Dad's joy at being able to catch up on 30-plus years of USC football and listening to old World War II stories with his idol, Grandpa Dick. I can also hear my dad remonstrating with Grandpa Dick, "Can you believe these new kickoff rules? The wussification of America has gotten worse down there, Gramps." And lastly, I can hear Dad's voice speaking to Grandpa Frank about how he did his best to take care of his daughter for the past almost 50 years. And I can hear so vividly in my head my grandpa's voice, "You did such a good job, mijo. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy to see you. Do you want to watch the Dodger game and have a Budweiser?"
All right. Hello, I'm Aaron. I'm the fourth and youngest child of Dave and Vicky. My mom would always introduce me as the youngest, this is our fourth child, Aaron, which my dad would respond, "This is our last child, Aaron." In March of this year, I married my beautiful wife, Brittany, and gave Dad another daughter-in-law to spoil. When trying to think about what aspect of Dad I should speak about, I went with what I know. And I know movies. In the film City Slickers, the main character, Mitch, played by Billy Crystal, discovers that the secret to life is just one thing, just one simple thing. And that one thing is different to everybody. In our eyes, Dad had about 1,000,000 things. He never just had one thing. He knew all the secrets to a happy life. But two specific connections to highlight for Dad were his love of country and his love of animals. Dad was a patriot. Dad loved watching military movies, documentaries. He had family that had served and fought dating all the way back to the Spanish-American War in 1898. He was always an incredible supporter of the armed forces, military personnel, and our first responders, specifically Glendora PD as well. He made a military appreciation video and slideshow that was actually shown here in the church. It was like when I was in high school. In 2011, I enlisted and served 4 years active duty in the United States Air Force. During these 4 years, Dad was never without some type of Air Force Dad shirt, mug, hat, or bumper sticker. That was him, constant support and pride. When he and my mother visited my base in 2013, he nearly got us arrested when he filmed the main gate and military police as we approached. Thankfully, they didn't believe this 6-foot-tall, big-bearded clown was part of ISIS and let us go with a warning. Dad was a lover of animals. His love of animals was something he'd had his entire life. During his life, he owned dogs, cats, birds, rats, fish, desert tortoise, hamsters. For a time, he had even made a homemade healthy dog treat called Pedo's Pet Treats. He was part of several animal rescue and rehoming groups on social media. He rescued his dog Daisy from an Australian cattle dog group he found online. You could find him lounging in his recliner with Andrew's 2 cats, Ozzy and Dee Dee, any day of the week. He loved animals so much that my mom used to joke that he had missed his true calling of being a veterinarian. The morning he was admitted to the hospital, he was taking care of his pets in his kitchen like he had every day. His love of pets and country came together when in July of 2015, my enlistment was coming to a close, and I planned to come back to California. Dad flew out to Louisiana and planned a week-long road trip back to Glendora. It was myself, Dad, and my Australian cattle dog, Baloo. The trip was dubbed Operation Baloo. Dad planned out the sights to see, and of course made sure every hotel we stayed in was pet-friendly so that Baloo would be comfortable. We saw the Grand Canyon. We stood on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, We saw the largest meteor crater in the world, just to name a few spots. Dad used to joke that Baloo had seen more of the country than most people live in their entire lives. My dad and dog had bonded so much on this trip that I was no longer the favorite whenever I went home to my dad. Whenever Dad went, Baloo went after that. Once we moved out, each time Baloo and I would visit my parents' house, I was always greeted second. Baloo would walk in first, to which I would hear, "Well, hello, Balooey. How are you, girlie?" And then I would get my hug and hello. I will miss hearing him say that every time I walk into the house. We will miss so many things that to miss just one thing would be impossible. His spirit and love will be with us forever, memories to last a lifetime, stories we could tell until the end of time. He was larger than life to all four of us, and we will always have something to carry us forward. If we can carry just one thing from our dad, then we all have honored him. Carry his jokes, carry his love of sports, his love of cooking, his immaturity. Whatever we carry, he will be with us. We will feel him most when we are all together as a family. He was the glue that kept us together. Don't worry, Dad, we got this. We promised to take care of Mom and each other because that's what you did best. Mom and Dad often talked about finding the BS, the bittersweet in life. In life, in death, and everything in between, we challenge you to continue to find the BS. Dad may not physically be here, but we know he's with us in our hearts. We know he's in heaven, probably having some Fireball right now, with some of his favorite Hall of Famers, and that's some real BS.